Hi, Camille. How are
Hi,
you?
Paul. Hi, everyone. Good
Thanks very
morning.
much
Good
for joining.
afternoon.
I'm going to say a few words about you so everybody knows who you are. Thanks so
Okay.
much for coming. So, Camille is a 2022 National Geographic Explorer, a co-founder and executive director of Oceanus Conservation, an environmental NGO based in the Philippines, where they focus on restoration and conservation of mangrove habitats around the country through working with local government, environment officers, and grassroots communities. She's worked in ocean conservation for a decade with a focus in coastal management and conservation, and engaged more than 7,000 young people to educate and promote ocean literacy. And Camille, I love it when we talk about mangroves these
I
days because
know.
it doesn't seem very long ago when the first thing we did when we arrived somewhere was remove the mangroves, right?
Yep.
It
Yep.
was, everybody thought these very dense growths were where all the mosquito live. We're all going to get malaria, so let's wipe out the mangroves.
Tell me about that. That's always a complaint everywhere I go. It's the mosquitoes.
Well, Camille, you know, over to you. We have an enormous audience around the world, and it's lovely. Thanks everybody for joining us. And Camille, over to you, please.
Thank you. So I'll just share my screen
I'll help you with it.
and then I hope
There you go,
everyone can
Camille.
see it. Full screen.
Have, yep, have fun.
Cool. Thank you so much. Okay, I'll just hide this so it's not really there. Oh, where am I? Okay. There you go. Hi, everyone. I want now you to take aside from bats, and now I want you to look at the mangrove forest. And I think as what Paul said, there's a lot of mosquitoes around, and I bet you I get bitten many times, and I will never have a good skin every time I'm in the mangrove forest. Um, but it's a very lovely ecosystem. It's the most undervalued ecosystem. It's, I would say personally, it's the keystone species that is very vital to everyone, not just for the wildlife, but also for the people. And this is the most perfect scene I can give you where I work. I'm behind me is the ocean, and in front of me is where the communities are, and that's why they're so important, because they're very important in the middle, right? They're very connected to communities, and they're very connected to wildlife, and we're going to talk about more what we're doing in Oceanus. I want to tell more a story how I actually came about with mangroves. And I myself, as a scientist, I was a researcher in an academe, and later on, I believe, like, I don't want to just write articles. I feel like there's no impact for me there, and so I went to an NGO in one of the islands in the Philippines. And one of my work there is actually to be with communities working on certain areas like marine protected areas and mangrove areas. And one of these communities I'm working with are the Women Association in the Mangrove. And I remember I asked them a long time ago, like, what is your need? What is your need? You have this beautiful forest. For me, I'm already excited to discover the forest with all this biodiversity. I've seen so many birds, wildlife, snakes around the area, but then again, this community, they already are connected with nature, but they wanted more. They wanted to have a more higher status or something like that. And I asked them, like, what do you need? And they said they wanted a boardwalk, a bamboo boardwalk. And so I helped them, connect this bamboo boardwalk. It's all just bamboo, and Evelyn is the person here that you see in the photo that's always very strong. And every time I go to the forest, we just have this small bangka, we call in the Philippines, and it's very tiny. We're literally close to the water already, and we just go into this meandering forest, and this photo is actually just perfect because I took this photo by the time she said there's a mangrove there, there's a species. So this is the time where we were looking for flowering trees, flowering mangrove trees. And this is where the story starts, that Evelyn here doesn't have any training whatsoever with the science of mangroves. I've had a training, but she's more connected to this area. And so I remember that we were going to this forest and we saw this species. And for me, I write it down. I usually write down every time I see a flower and a seed, and I said Aegiceras corniculatum. And Evelyn will just randomly said like, oh, it's saging, and which is actually the term they call for a banana. So the Filipino term for banana is saging. And so it resembles that picture, right? It looks the same. And I was like, oh no, you're joking, right? You don't call that, you don't call this mangrove saging. But anyway, we're going into this forest again. And I saw this propagule, and I wrote it down, Seriopsipilla. So I actually know most of them in the scientific terms. I don't know it in the local terms. And it's the funny because I'm not so connected in the forest. I just look at it theoretical and write it down. And I don't know if people can distinguish it, but it actually looks like a pencil. And the community in Evelyn termed this mangrove lapis lapis. And lapis is actually a term in the language pencil. It means pencil. And so they call it lapis lapis because when they were young, they used this propagule to write when they don't have anything to write. They use this, and it works actually. I didn't know that. And something closer to home. I live now in Manila, and apparently Manila, which is the capital of Philippines, is actually a term before called Maynilad, because nilad is the Tagalog or the local term for Siphiphora hydrophilisae. And long time ago, Manila, which is now very like super city, like if you look at it, it's 20 million people, used to be lush with mangroves, used to be lush with nilad. And so it's quite, I want to go back to that connection of nature where, all these communities know it already. They have the local knowledge. And what we're working in our organization is just merging that. It's merging the importance of community who is so connected with mangroves and science, which is my background. And so that's where our organization started. We wanted to restore blue carbon habitats, and I'll tell you more about it. And later on, with the existence of technology and also learning about being with the community, I wanted to merge those three things: the technology, the community, and also the coastal habitats. So and it works, and that's where our organization has been working on. And this is one of the sites that I went to, and I don't know if people know how this is a fish pond. This was just a mangrove months ago, and they deforest it. And I'm having goosebumps now just looking at it. But they deforest it and turn it into a fish pond, and that's why you see this. This is the original soil, and then they push down that soil down. They cut all these mangroves, and these are the roots. These are these existing roots below it, and so in the Philippines, actually, we've lost 51% of mangrove forests since the 1920s. Long time ago in the Philippines, there was a big push for aquaculture fish ponds, and it still now is the most destructive causes of mangrove loss, biodiversity loss. And so this is where a lot of organizations are now trying to plant more and more. So, it's not always a beautiful story. It's not always like a beautiful, lush mangrove forest that I always go to. I always encounter a lot of deforestation. And again, talking about earlier in the talk, there was a lot on economic value, right? We need to value this ecosystem for the people to be connected again. And so this is one site that we have, and we're really pushing for protection of this beautiful mangrove ecosystem. And I just want everyone to know how there in the Philippines, we always get a typhoon 20 times every year. And they are actually our first line of defense. and they can lose the 2/3 of the wave energy. They also prevent a lot of property damages, like about $65 billion of property damages, and flooding for about 15 million people. And there's a lot of not just in Philippines, but a lot of countries around Southeast Asia are actually going low with soil erosion. And so we needed these mangroves because they can accrete soil. And that's the thing, one of the ecosystem service that people forget. They can accrete soil, and they can protect communities from flooding. And globally, 4.1 million fishers are connected to this ecosystem, especially small scale communities. And it's the same community that I work with, Evelyn, and the Women Association. And so just like Carol earlier, nobody looks at bats. And in the same with before with mangroves, with me, this is such an undervalued ecosystem that no one looks at in the Philippines. There's a law for protection, but the implementation is not there. It's not as strong as it should be. And it's not always the colorful, like coral reef. It's so colorful, when they see mangroves, again, what Paul said, you just remember mosquitoes, or, and sometimes we forget that they are, the keystone habitat in between the land and the sea. And so as you've seen it, we have 50%, we lost a lot of mangroves in the Philippines, and there are restoration efforts, and there are organizations, agencies working towards it. However, only 2 to 10% survive from these reforestation efforts. And it's just, the main cause here is that the wrong area and the wrong species that they plant. And most often, this is another photo I want to show you, most often they use this species, and this is called Rhizophora. And they plant them in a very inundated water, like always with water. Evolutionary, mangroves are actually terrestrial. They're just pushed by evolution to move into the coast, to survive in the salty water, but they actually still need fresh water, and they need dry times. They cannot be under the water all the time, especially when they're young. So mangroves, when they're still a baby, it's like taking a real baby. They need to be taken care of all the time. A lot of communities will tell me, like, there's so many mangroves in the water, they can survive, but it won't be as healthy as it should be, and they won't give as much ecosystem service and biodiversity to us as it should be. And so what we do in the organization is we're promoting more awareness and stewardship with the communities we work with. And because the reason why is that these communities are so connected with nature, and so when the project ends, they're the frontline defenders of the area. They're the frontline heroes of the area. And so we need to just enhance that. We just need to empower them, that they have the power to protect. And one of the questions I remember asking them is, who's protecting your area? Who's protecting the mangroves? And they said it's the local government. But in truth, it should be them. They're so close to the area. And so we're just teaching them, or like just adding to their knowledge what are the other mangroves that they've seen, and showing them how to use this. It's a salt meter. It's a refractometer where you check the saltiness of the area, and so which species to plant in that area. And they also get training by us just to understand ecology, which area to plant, which species to plant, and so that. And one of our areas, we've actually already created 5 mangrove nursery banks across the Philippines. We've planted almost 10,000 diverse species. We protected 250 hectares of mangrove areas, and this is through really pushing with the local government to protect that area and legalize it as a local ordinance. And so we're helping the government to, also helping the communities they get incentives from protecting. And so we're hopefully expanding it already to a bigger area so that more local government and more communities benefit from this protection. And I just want to show you how we do, especially in abandoned fish ponds, which is mostly in our areas. In the Philippines, the projects that we target are abandoned fish ponds. And so this is a fish pond. As you can see, it's very low. It's always with water. And so with this kind of ecosystem, this is below sea level already. And in scientific, theoretically, it has to be above sea level, mean sea level. And so we just try to raise the soil. So back in April, we tested some mounds where we raised this soil. And as you can see here, there's a red line here, and this is what the locals planted. They were planting it in inundated water. It's always with water, and it's very tiny. They're still small. And in September, I told them it's the same seedlings actually that was planted in the mounds too. So the same seedlings that's in here. And in September, as you can see, they're still tiny, but the one in the mounds are huge. And picture speaks more. Communities see it. Communities always have this motto: to see is to believe. They don't like the theory, right? So we have to prove this to them. And so they move most of these seedlings to create more mounds. So they actually just created their own mounds in the fish pond. And there's they added some shrimp and fish already around the area. So it's more mixed now of aqua silviculture. At the end of the day, it's still about food, and people want food. And so we're trying to make sure there's added service by the mangroves in this area, through like more healthy, again, this is all a lot of fertilizers that they add. So having the mangroves there will have less fertilizer use that they will put in this pond, and not chemically put into fish. So now it's more faster growth, and they can see that, and they already created more mounds in those areas. And another area that we went to in one of our project site, we created mounds also in this area, and we did a little baseline on this is a huge this is also a hectare of fish pond, abandoned fish pond, and there are already natural regeneration, but then again, it needs to be more assisted by us. And so we already got a lot of bird wildlife around the area, that was going around while we were doing the restoration. And then some kingfisher, this is I think a Brahminy kite, and some um, uh, little egrets. And then my team, we were collecting a baseline of how much shells or macro invertebrates that will be in the area before the restoration happens. And we hope to get more studies after the restoration. So this is still ongoing, and this is how my staff is collecting a bunch of mud to get the macroinvertebrates. And aside from that, we've done a lot of education and training with the communities. They've already seen seagrass as well, and we gave them a seagrass field manual. We went into the forest. We taught them how to collect data through phone. And again, we're talking about technology here, just trying to enhance their knowledge that they can do it, So we created a localized restoration manual, and we have this citizen science mangrove seagrass monitoring, which the National Geographic funded us for. And this is where communities can be part of the whole ecosystem, because they're the ones connected to the forest. Scientists will take time to go to the forest, and so having them empowered to collect data and then give to us to verify, to the NGO, and then we give to the scientists. They get to earn by collecting data, not just planting. And so that's where also where the measure to earn pilot that we tried with MIT. So this is such a nice project, and I feel like these communities have learned so much about the smartphones, and they already gave us a lot of feedback, and they said it's so easy. And one of the things that I love about this activity was that there's a intergenerational intergenerational because it's the father who knows about mangroves and it's the son or the daughter that knows the smartphone, and so together they got excited to work together, and they're so fast. And I remember having this conversation with the daughter and the father, and the daughter said like, "Oh, dad, you know this mangrove." She was shocked about knowing that he knows the mangrove, and then the dad was mentioning like, "Of course I know this. I've been here most of the time." So I think this is such a nice activity to have where it's like more intergenerational, and that's where we're planning to do more in the future. And another thing that it's about, again, going us back to nature, is this virtual to real gamification that was supported by the University of Manchester and Minecraft, where one of our visiting professors actually created a mangrove world that was inspired by the mangroves that we brought them, or we brought them in the field. And so they created this mangrove dot world, if you look at it. And they're still making this into hopefully a game that could connect more students and citizens, and to be more connected to nature. And of course, they created a character of me in Minecraft too. So if you are into Minecraft doing mangroves, if you go to Building a Better World, you'll probably see me there, a small character. But of course, this is for the globe, for the globally. So they give it to Nature Conservancy for that fund. The donation goes to the Nature Conservancy. And this is one of the Measure to Earn pilot that we also help with the communities. We're in, this is Sir Mamer, the community leader, and we're training them how to understand this Measure to Earn, and they earn something from just measuring trees. And so this is his wife. I love that they learn, and they're very old, but they love learning. They were so fast, and I can't believe they were able to do 300 trees in 3 days. So that's 100 trees measured a day. They were amazing in the field. And so I think one of the things that we just love to share is that, the participants that we have, they find forest data collection and measurement very viable. And this is one of the student that we have, Rafi, and he said that he earned and he could supplement its budget to finish his college studies. And he was able to measure 40 trees in just that day. And then he earned that amount. And then another lady, Ate Delilah, she also earned for the collection of trees. And then she also mentioned that she doesn't have to wait long time to get the payment anymore, because usually the budget goes to the local government and they don't receive anything. And so this kind of crypto blockchain happened, wherein it the money goes directly to their smartphones, and it's a combination of all these partners that we have. And so this was tested, and everyone's actually really happy. And I think at the end of the day, I just want to share those smiles from the communities, that when they learn something and when they get some certificate, they just love to be in the field with us. They don't care how hot it is in the mangrove or in seagrass area, but they love that they can be part of this project, and they earn something from just learning and measuring. And so I think that's the end of my presentation, and I hope I was able to inspire everyone to to be connected with nature again. Thank you.
Hey, Camille, I thought that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much. And I'm on the Minecraft mangroves right there. What a great idea! Because
I know.
it's that thing. Yeah, well done with it, because you've got all the things that we know so well, proven tools like citizen science. People love to get engaged, and the thing with mangroves, of course, is you can see results relatively quickly in your own area.
Yeah.
Better than I do. Some of the citizen science projects, everybody works, everybody collects their field observations, and
Exactly.
they get sent in, and then it all goes quiet for some time.
Yeah.
And people wonder, where their hard work has gone. But with mangroves, and in your project, people get that reward.
Yeah.
And then using smartphones, the whole communication bit. And I love it when things like this get is the word gamified? Can you say gamified?
That's what the term now is. I'm not a gamer myself, right? And I didn't even know about this, and it was mentioned to me, and I couldn't understand the concept until
Yeah.
when we did it, and I'm like, okay, now I understand. So all these people who, play games, they're now connected to nature because it's going to real efforts on the ground, and that's us doing that. So, and the communities we work with. So I think that's really a nice concept for people who are very into technology, very disconnected, but they can still be part of it. So, but I still love the citizen science, more the underground work I'm into.
Likewise, yes, I prefer the hands-on, being at the front
Yeah,
line.
hands on.
But we need all those tools, don't we? We need every tool that we
Yeah,
can possibly get our hands on to bring everybody in. And
for sure.
I'm interested, when you developed this whole project and you saw that successes, when it went into the gaming world,
Mhm.
was it very difficult to get the accuracy of the science in there, or did they instinctively pick it up?
Oh yeah, I think I was more connected with the mangrove world because it was the professor from the Manchester, Ricardo, and he had to come to Philippines, and because we were going back and forth, it's like, Ricardo, that doesn't look like mangrove. That looks like a pine tree. He was like, no, that doesn't how it works and all that. And he came. He went here. We created a whole we organized a whole planting session in the mangrove. He understood everything, and he's like, he was so inspired. He went back to Manchester, and he in UK, and then he was able to explain to all his students how it works and everything. So that was really good because it was really based on what he sees. He took so much photos and videos, and with the Minecraft, I think they already understood what it is because probably they have more experts and all these artists around the area, and so they know most of it. And it was it was me and another expert from Florida that they also got to speak about mangroves, and it's just that whole connection from, even if you're in US and even if I'm in the Philippines, we still have that same mangroves
I absolutely love
connection.
it, Camille. And to ensure accuracy, he had to come out and ground
Yeah,
truth it for himself,
yeah.
which of course is the thing. It's absolutely brilliant. Well, what a terrific input from you, Camille. Really well done. Thanks very much. Terrific
Thank you so
example.
much.
And yeah,
Thank you,
thanks very
everyone.
much, and keep up the great work. And it's now great fun to bring in Joe, and we go to Cornwall. Can you believe it? See you,
Thank
Camille.
you.
Thanks a lot.